In this video, which concerns chapter 7, I'm going to show you how to color tint black and white photography. So to start off, I'm going to go to File and Open, and in chapter 7, I'm going to open folder 1, Quick Mask Tints. And this is the original photo. Okay, all the dolls are in color, but I really want to just highlight and focus on the center doll. So this gives you an idea what the colors are. Pink hat, red hair, blue eyes. I'm going to then go to File and Open, and now I'm going to open the second image. Okay, the third one is what we're about to do. This is all paint that has been applied to a black and white photo. I want to show you how to do that. So I'm going to open file number 2, the black and white photo. Okay, and what I'm going to do to colorize a photo is just like colorizing black and white line art, which we did in week 1. Every new color gets its own layer. So in order to select all these areas, like the area of pink or the area for her hair, I have made selections for you, and then I saved those selections. Remember I showed before, select, save your selections. Saved selections are stored on your channels panel. So if I come over here to my channels, remember like I've told you before, you click on the name of the channel. So I made a selection for all the pink fabric. I made a selection for the blue of her shirt. I made a selection for the area of her red hair. And if you don't name a channel, it is called alpha. Alpha is going to be her skin tones. So I've made 4 elements here. So since I know there's going to be a layer for pink, a layer for blue, a layer for red hair, a layer for skin, I'm going to make a layer for each one of these channels. So on my layers panel, I'll just click on pink fabric here. Or actually, let's click on RGB. On my layers panel, I'm going to hit the plus, double click the name, and call that pink fabric. Hit the plus, double click the name, call that blue fabric. Hit the plus, double click the name, red hair, and the final layer. Hit the plus, double click the name, skin tone. All right, so now I'm going to come down to the pink fabric. I'm going to hit D for default colors, and the whole idea of color tinting a photo is based on the grayscale value that you see in that photo. Light amounts of gray will reveal a little bit of color, light amounts of color. Darker gray reveals broader or more saturated color. Okay, so light gray is going to reveal light pinks. So if I know that I want to make the fabric pink, I'm going to click on my foreground. I am not going to start with a light pink because remember, we're color tinting. A tint is a lighter shade of color. So if I start off with light pink, lighter than that would almost be white. Okay, so even though I know I want this to be light pink, I'm going to go with a heavier pink. Way over there. Go darker than what you need, knowing that it's going to lighten up the color automatically. So compensate for that. I'm going to click OK. Now I need to select those areas of pink fabric. So all I have to do is go to Select menu, Load Selection, and the channel bar is going to ask me what channel. You have to click this bar and you have to physically select the pink fabric areas. You can't just leave it. You got to click on it and pick. Now when I click OK, I've got all the pink fabric areas selected. I'm on a layer for the pink fabric. I've got my color chosen. Option key and the big delete key on a Mac. That would be Alt and backspace on a PC. All I have to do now is Command D, deselect that. I'm done filling that area. And that's just going to drop normal paint kind of hovering over a photograph. So in order to color tint a photo, you set your blending mode to overlay. Okay, notice how multiply, you get the midtones, you get the darks, but it's really flat. You have no highlights. All of these will affect your colors in different ways, but the truest, most realistic one is overlay. You keep all your shadows, your midtones, and your highlights. Now that looks way oversaturated. So right next to your blending modes, as I've shown you before, is your opacity. I can slide that back and make it a nice light pink, a more natural looking pink on that fabric. Okay, obviously it's working around here, but you can see how it ran right through her hair. That's going to be a problem. Because if I colored her hair red, red would then mix with pink and create a third color. I need to remove this pink from the hair so I can drop in an unobstructed shade for the red hair. You can't have colors overlapping each other. They create a third color. So what I'm going to do is, it doesn't matter what layer you're on when you're using your channel, so I'll just stay on the pink for now. Command D, deselect. Then I repeat those steps. Select menu, load selection. I physically pick the channel for red hair, and I click OK. So notice how it has selected all this pink that's bad. On the pink fabric, I hit delete. Scrape it off of her hair. It doesn't belong there. Now I come up to the red hair layer and I mix a shade of reddish brown for her hair. So I'll come down here, kind of a reddish brown in there. Again, to fill an area, it's Option and Delete. Command D to deselect. And I set it from flat normal paint to overlay. If that's a little too saturated, which they typically are, you drop the opacity down just to blend it out a little better. That looks pretty good. Now I'm going to come down to the blue fabric. And I'm going to repeat those steps again. Select menu, load selection, physically click the channel bar and pick blue fabric. And I'll click OK. And you can see, without even adding color, we're going to have a problem here. Notice how the blue goes right over her collar. Okay, so again, when I throw in blue, it's going to overlap the pink, and then blue and pink are going to create purple. But I have to have the colors line up right next to each other. So what you do first is you overcompensate and you overlap your colors. I'll pick a shade of blue. Again, a little darker than what I intend to use, because I can always lower the opacity later. I'm on the blue fabric, Option key and delete, Command D to deselect, and I will set that one to overlay. Notice where the blue crosses over the pink, and now it's creating that ugly third purple color. Okay, I have to make the blue stop right at the edge of the collar, not go over the edge. Well, I've already defined the edge of that collar, but I did it on the pink fabric. The blue fabric goes past the edge. So what I'm going to do is stay on the blue fabric, come right back up to Select menu, Load Selection. The blue is crossing over the pink, so I'm going to click the channel bar and reselect the pink. The pink fabric area is where I made a perfect edge around her collars. So there, if I turned off that, you can see all the blue that goes over the edges. So now that I'm on the blue fabric area, hit delete. Now the blue does not cross over the pink. Now the pink does not cross over into the hair. All my colors are lining up perfectly. I'm going to come up to the final layer here, skin tone, and I'm going to repeat those steps yet again. Select menu, load selection, physically click the channel bar and pick alpha. Again, I didn't name that, so by default they're called alpha. Alpha 1 is her skin, and I'll click OK. And now notice what we got. Her skin goes over her hair, her skin goes over the pink, her skin goes over the blue. We're going to have a huge mess, but I'm going to show you how to clean up those messes as well. So I'll click here, and typically skin tones are going to be a reddish brown tone down in here. Go something like that. Maybe a little more reddish. There we go. Way darker than what I need. Option and delete. Command D, and I will set that to overlay. Click on the opacity, drag that way back so kind of tone that out. And you can still see, if I bring it back up, the red crosses, or the skin crosses over her blue, her pink, her hair. So here's the quickest trick. You stay on the skin tone layer, hover over the red hair layer thumbnail, hold your command key and click. That will reselect around the red hair. I stay on the skin tone and I delete the skin tone from crossing over the hair. I'll do it again right here. I hover over the blue fabric layer thumbnail, hold command key and click. Now I've reselected around all the blue fabric. Stay up here on the skin tones where it's going over and delete. Stay on my skin tone layer. I'm going to hover over the pink fabric layer thumbnail. Command and click the layer thumbnail for pink fabric. Come back up to the skin tone where it's going over the edges and hit delete. Command D. So now the skin tone lines up with the blue, it lines up with the pink, it lines up with her hair. I can lower the opacity again. So I got just a tint of color here for the skin. But if I zoom in, notice how half of it is still going over her earrings right there. It's definitely going over that earring. It's going over the whites of her eyes. It's also going over the pearl necklace. So I need to erase by hand some of these other areas. So on the skin tone layer, I'm going to add a layer mask. One click, add a layer mask. D for default colors. X to switch to black. And now with a small paintbrush, I'm going to hold Control and Option, go with a hard brush and maybe down in size. So I can just scrape a little bit off that earring right there. Take a little bit off that. Take a little bit off this side earring right here. I'm going to zoom in real close to her eyes. Hold Control and Option, go with a smaller brush. And by painting with black, I'm going to scrape the skin off of the eyeball here. So as I get to the corner, I'm going to go past the corner like that. X for white and put the skin tone back on. So make a nice sharp corner right there in the corner of her eye. X for black, and I'll continue to erase around the edges of the eye right here. Okay, if I have a corner, I just go past it. X for white, and I put the skin tone back on. Kind of create better corners there. X for black, and I'll continue to erase the skin tone from that eye. erase the skin tone from this eye. X for white, and I put the skin tone back on for that corner. X for black, and I'll continue to erase right off the surface of the eyeball here. There we go. Take all that out. Now you can see her eyes look nice and bright. I'm going to zoom in on the pearl necklace, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'll hold Control and Option, make my brush about the size of one of these pearls here, and just click, 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 click. Erase those ones. That was perfect. And the bottom ones look a little smaller, so I'm going to hold Control and Option, go a little bit smaller, click, click, make this smaller here, just kind of erase. Wasn't sure on the size of this one, so I'll do that one by hand. And we'll just do this last one by hand. There we go. Look at that. She's looking great. Now the only other two things I want to finish is the color of her eyes and her red lipstick. I don't have selections for those because those are really small areas. So I'm just going to make a brand new layer by clicking the plus. I'm going to double click the name and call that Blue Eyes. I'll zoom in on the eyes, and I'm going to mix a shade of blue. Again, a little darker than what I need. Take my paintbrush, and before I even start painting, I'm going to set the layer's blending mode to overlay so I can see the effect as I paint. So I'll just come in with a small brush right here, and as I paint, since the layer is set to overlay, I'm going to see the results as I go. Okay, if this layer was set to normal, I would just be covering up my photo again with flat normal paint. But I can set it to overlay as I work. I can kind of see it live. We'll scroll over here, do the same thing. Just kind of brush along those edges. If I accidentally make a mistake like that, I'm just going to keep going. Okay, we'll go right against her eyelash there. If I made a mistake, add a layer mask. D for default colors, X for black, and I scrape away my mistake. No problem. There we go. Blue eyes, way too blue. So I'm going to lower the opacity of the blue eyes just to give them a little tint of color there. I'll do one last layer. We'll call this red lipstick. You know, as I'm almost done with this file, I forgot to mention, hopefully you've been doing it on your own, but save your progress. Okay? By this time, I shouldn't have to keep reminding you. What I would have done, if I remembered, is every time you finish a color, save. Finish the blue, save. Finish the red hair, save, save, save. I just forgot to because I'm going a little quicker and this is just a demo for you. But be in the process of constantly saving your layers, please. Otherwise you have to start all over again. So I'm going to switch my color here to red. Just remember that for each additional file you do. Save your progress as you go. I'm going to pick a deeper color than what I need. Set the layer's blending mode to overlay. And with a small brush right here, I'll just go right along the edges of her lips. Again, if you make a mistake and you go past, you can always add a layer mask. You know, if I do this, not a problem. Just going to keep going. I got to fill this area in anyway. There we go. Add a layer mask. D for default, X for black, and just scrape off your mistakes. There's no big deal. That's what layer masks are for. If those lips look way too bright, lower the opacity so they kind of blend back into the toy right there. And check that out. She totally stands out in this scene. That looks great. And all we've done is paint like this. We've just dropped paint right on top of a photo. Okay, you can always go back and edit your colors. So if the blue fabric is too much, I can drop the opacity right there. Just have a light tint so it kind of blends with the rest of these colors in a more natural manner. And that is how you color tint black and white photography. Each color gets its own layer. You always start with a color darker than what you need because you are making tints of color, and you set it to overlay. There we go.